Have you seen this video? Because I just found out about it a few days ago, and not only is it Rainhoe's most viewed video with 400,000 views racked up in about 3 weeks and counting, but the VOD it comes from has a separate 100k views on its own, and well, I'm in it. See? That's me right there, shaking Connor's hand for the second time before failing to win the plushie they'd been attempting to snag for the past half hour. And while to these two streamers it may have just seemed like a regular fan interaction, it was actually, well, it was one. This isn't one of those, it was all part of my elaborate ruse types of videos. I'm not that conniving or clever for that matter. To be honest, I just thought it was interesting. Seeing Connor in person and watching him work a crowd, even if it was just a crowd of one and that one was me, the way that he carried the interaction from even before I walked up to him all the way until the moment I left was just so smooth. He worked not only the camera and the conversation, but even the stream itself in a precise way that protected me as somebody who wasn't a streamer, as well as him and Rainhoe as people who didn't know what to expect from a random person that approached them out of nowhere. All while crafting a small narrative for chat to interact with along the way. And after seeing it again in the video, I became interested in breaking it down to a technical standpoint, both for my own education as an amateur content creator and hopefully for your entertainment as well. But mugmoth, isn't this just an overanalysis of a regular everyday interaction? Yeah, it is. But then why is it that— I decided to make this video half for my own learning experience and half because I just find it interesting. I was able to learn a few new things about direction as a streamer, and hopefully you'll get something out of it as well. Otherwise, it's just an interesting new perspective. And a story about how I embarrassed myself in front of 6,000 people. Now, a small disclaimer before I get into it. While I am mainly going to be talking about CDawgVA today, this is Rainhoe's video, edited by her team with footage from her stream. And really, her small interaction with me while I was on camera is one of the reasons I was able to get more comfortable with myself. I've checked out some of her stuff since then, and she's also a great content creator with her own niches that she's really skilled at working with, so it would be criminal of me not to recommend her as well. So, context. About 3 months ago, I planned a 1-month trip to Japan with a few friends of mine, and of course, one of the big stops that we had planned was Akihabara. This was a huge deal to us. Not only is it the anime capital of the world, but I had already been arcade hopping and was smack in the middle of a hardcore crane game addiction during the trip. So when we arrived there, we wandered the Akihabara strip, going from arcade to arcade as I scoured for figurines that I could pretend to need. But the first time I saw the two, it wasn't actually at the crane game. It was when we were looking around at this Gundam/figure store. Initially, I wasn't actually too nervous about going up and asking if he was really that CDawgVA. My only concern is that if I was wrong, I would be the guy that asked people if they're a famous YouTuber just because they're a curly-haired British guy in Japan. And for the record, I don't think he's 5'10". I hope that's not offensive. But then we saw the camera on his shoulder, and not only did I realize he was definitely that CDawgVA, probably accompanied by another streamer, but they were also probably live. And suddenly I got really nervous because he was working and I didn't really want to interrupt that. Like if I worked at a restaurant and someone who I knew came by and started making a mess of the place and ordering meals expecting them to be free just because they knew me, I would hate that. So I decided to give up, and it became this awkward back and forth about me wanting to give up and my friends trying to push me into doing it. I ended up getting so worked up over it that I just kind of stood in a corner until they left and walked out myself, because I'm awkward. And then after that, I did what any sane person would do to calm themselves down. I immediately hopped on Discord and frantically consulted my fellow VTuber friends on what ones to do when passing by an internationally famous content creator. They were pretty quickly able to inform me that while he wasn't live himself, Connor was in fact guest starring on another creator's stream. Supposedly they were going for a Kirby crane game that was on the city strip, and it happened to be the exact one that my friend and I were going for less than an hour prior. So I figured, if I want to do it, this really is my last chance. So I mustered up some courage. And, well, you know what happened next.
Just slow down. We've been on this for so long. This is a joke.
Are you CDawgVA?
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Can I get a hand?
Oh, hi, man. I'm streaming right now, by the way, just letting you know. Yeah. It's all good, man. It's all good.
Going back and watching the whole stream, the way Connor positions his body with respect to the camera on his shoulder is both very intentional and very delicate more or less the entire time. And this sort of thing is especially apparent right at the start of our interaction. He keeps his torso entirely straight while turning his head, probably at a slightly uncomfortable angle just to meet my eye. And it's not until after he mentions they're live on Twitch that he turns the camera towards us. While it made his movement a little awkward at times, I think it's really impressive how naturally and second-handedly it came across. Once I actually got to talking, I was more or less kind of a nervous wreck. I'm not actually quite sure how much of this showed through on camera. I think it is apparent that I was nervous to a degree, but I had overblown the situation so much in my head that I talked with the vocabulary of a 6-year-old. It was so bad that at the start, I could honestly only remember bits and pieces of the interaction. Connor seemed to have picked up on this pretty immediately and moved the focus away from me so that viewers didn't notice. He takes charge of the conversation, mentioning Rainhoe and the crane games, and turns the camera away from me. It was a really quick-witted move and probably saved me a lot of internet embarrassment. Although, here I am talking about it anyway. Sorry for the wasted effort, Connor. Now, Rainhoe, being the absolute saint that she was, actually offered for me to try the crane game. Whether it was out of kindness or just burnout, I quickly took the opportunity to focus on anything that wasn't my failing interaction, and that probably was her exact intention too. Thanks for the save, Rainhoe. Now, once I essentially accepted entering the stream through that interaction, the focus migrated to me and Connor was pretty naturally able to spin a bit of a narrative around it. Even taking a regular comment that I said and using it to take a stab at Rainhoe, keeping us both involved. It's also worth mentioning that he could have done this at the start when I initially introduced myself, but it could have reflected negatively on me, so he waited until there was more neutral ground for all of us to stand on. In another world where I met some other streamer, I very well could have become the joke. As somebody who's pretty out of control of their own anxiety at the time, having two other people who are pretty much experts at leading social situations was really impressive to watch. It made me feel comfortable knowing I was with people who shared the same level of respect for me as a person as I did for them. I know that seems like a no-brainer, but when you're in front of 6,000 viewers on a stream with two people you're just now meeting, you never really know what could happen. After that first poll ended as a bust, Connor waits to see if Rainhoe has any more interest in having me try again, then ends things with "it was nice meeting you." A polite and natural way to set a boundary between me and him, signaling that it was the end of the viewer interaction. This is important because he didn't know me, and it's very possible that I, as a fan, could have tried to overstay my welcome. It's a safety bound that was both for his sake and for Rainhoe's. I essentially outlived my lifespan as a viewer self-projection. Either way, from the moment he began talking to me, it felt like he entered a sort of work mode, and by extension, I felt like he allowed me to watch him work. There was so much practice and so much intention in everything he did, and despite that, it still felt like a very genuine interaction. And I know that a lot of what I'm saying may seem like I'm just pointing out the obvious, but there's a big difference between knowing something and really understanding it. And this event really opened my eyes to the directive aspect of live streaming that I thought I had a grasp on, but really didn't. It's not just turning on a camera and making some jokes, it's improv. It's taking a provided scenario and framing it in a way that's entertaining to the audience. Connor actually talks about this exact thing on his I Spent a Day With episode, and I was so glad when I found the quote because it's the exact point I'm trying to make, but made in 10 seconds instead of 10 minutes.
When you bring a camera somewhere and you talk with someone, it is absolutely your job to put that person at ease and kind of be like, me and this camera is not a threat. We're not here to exploit you or make you look bad or smear you in any way.
I initially gained an interest in CDawgVA because I've always felt that there was this balance between casual and professional that he captures really well while still maintaining authenticity to both himself and his content. And you can really see that shine through in his videos. He's always trying new things and always jumping on new opportunities, but never forgetting where he started either. When it comes to me, I'm really just an amateur in the sphere. I've got, 2 videos up with a third on the way, and my Twitch streams don't usually break 20 viewers. Not to say that's a bad thing, but you could say I've got some polishing to do. To be honest, I don't even really watch Twitch that much, but despite that, I can't help but want to stream. There's this feeling that wells up inside me when I put my everything into something new that ultimately comes down to a gamble. It's a thrill that I've found I can't really help but chase. I'm glad I worked up the courage to say hi to CDawgVA, and I'm glad that he was streaming with Rainhoe when I did. I'm even glad that I waited 20 minutes before doing it, because despite the few awkward moments, rather than just shaking the hand of somebody I admire, I actually got the chance to watch them work, and it was an extremely valuable experience for me. For such a short time of interaction, I looked back and was able to learn so much about it. I found a new creator to follow. I even got a great video topic from it. Generally, up to this point, I've mostly stayed away from a lot of the more involved communities within content creation, but this interaction was fun. It made me want to do more. It made me want to go out and meet more people and collaborate and learn from others. Even besides all of this technical stuff, they were just fun people to meet. And it's something I never would have realized if I didn't take that leap and shake Connor's hand. Twice. I shook it twice. God help me. A huge thank you to Connor for being really cool about me entering and introducing myself in the middle of a stream, and an even bigger thank you to Rainhoe specifically for featuring me in her video and wasting 200 yen on me. And I'm so sorry that I didn't say hi to you, but I will make sure to next time, if there is one. Twice. I shook his hand twice. Never gonna live that one down, Mugmoth.